Today we are joined by MEC Ramokgopa, who has just extended herself and extended the responsibility. And I could say it is really, really full circle from an entrepreneur in Gauteng who did her work graciously and knows business from point A to Z. Now she is leading Gauteng to really, really make sure that not only business is Gauteng, but Gauteng remains the core engine of economy in South Africa. MEC, welcome to BRICS Africa channel.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be with you once again.
Tell me, how is the journey feeling like today?
Well, today, it feels like a wedding. So much planning and preparation has gone into putting this event together. My predecessor, who has recently stepped out of this role, has been working since we left off last year in last year's investment conference. And I'm really quite honored to now be able to take this mandate and this mission forward. The pledges that have been made today, to see that process being implemented and to oversee the growth and development of South Africa's biggest economy, which is Gauteng.
Normally when there's change in leadership, investors normally ask the certainty of continuity. What is your philosophy in driving that forward, or with obviously new strategies that you'll be bringing into the portfolio?
Well, fortunately, we've built the institutions in this province. I'm one who believes that the implementation should not sit in a political office. We are there to lead and guide from a strategic perspective, set the vision, set the path, and provide that oversight. But we've got institutions like the Gauteng Growth and Development Agency, the Gauteng Enterprise Propeller, which deals with the small businesses, and a number of other institutions of this province that are well capacitated to ensure that there is long-term continuity and that those relationships are serviced and maintained, over time, regardless of which administration is in place.
And if I could say that there is a investor from Moscow, from Beijing, from Sao Paulo, and they're looking into Africa, looking at projects, what would you say is your value proposition as Gauteng?
Well, I think as a starting point, it goes without saying that Gauteng is the gateway to this continent. And I can say that boldly. It is the leading economy in South Africa. We account for more than a third of South Africa's GDP. And of course, it is highly advanced in terms of infrastructure, in terms of logistics, in terms of just systems and capacity, human capacity that is available. It's one of our best assets, in fact, are the people of Gauteng. So I truly believe that any investor that is looking to start their journey of investment on the African continent would be well placed to start in Gauteng, would find a soft landing in Gauteng. It's also the financial capital. So a number of the leading financial institutions, from commercial banks, development finance institutions, and many other multinational institutions are located here. And there's a reason for that. Gauteng, geographically, and also just in terms of what we offer, in terms of the broad offering, really makes for a prime investment destination.
And which sectors would these be that you think that you can unleash them within the next 7 days?
Listen, yesterday.
Okay.
So, it's quite fortunate that 2 weeks ago we released the Gauteng City Region Economic Growth and Development Plan, which I would really encourage yourself and your viewers to engage with quite seriously. This plan sets forward the vision and the strategy for Gauteng in terms of the next 5 to 10 years. And it highlights the 12 key industries from where we see the lion's share of the growth coming. And that spans across a number of different industries, automotive sector, of course, which is already one of our key industries, manufacturing, the green economy and sustainability economy, agro-processing and agriculture, very close to my heart, as well as even other sectors like the services and creative industries, which we also know we are very well known for here in Gauteng. So the beauty really of South Africa, but I'll say specifically Gauteng, is that it's a diversified economy. We're not a one-trick pony. So investors that are operating in different industries, be it mining, be it financial services, be it automotive, can really find opportunities here. And what I also laid out today was the fact that, even from a geographic spread within the province, we have really tried to spread across the different regions of Gauteng, because of course you've got different nodes that have strengths, that have different strengths. And so being able to cluster like industries or complementary industries according to certain geographic nodes also creates that additional multiplier effect, enables us to make those strategic infrastructure investments that then will create that additional multiplier effect.
And beyond opportunities, as you say, one thing that seems to be coming up, especially from the South African Investment Conference, that we come through as investors, we pledge, we put the money together. On the other side, we have a list of bottlenecks.
Yes.
And I'm sure in the province of Gauteng, as big as it is, there would be a similar pattern. What are you thinking, and how do you think that you'll be able to really have strategies that are impactful to remove those bottlenecks so that investment can happen faster than it is happening now?
No, I mean, you're really touching on such a key part of today's conversation. It's about how we move from pledges to implementation to bankable projects that are seeing themselves actually being implemented. And a big part of that does sit in our domain as government, and I'll be more specific, in the domain of local government. When it comes to regulatory approvals, when it comes to just the general cutting of red tape, whether it's environmental approvals or any other kind of regulatory approvals from a food safety perspective or any other compliance, that is something we have to really expedite and ensure that we can be a lot more streamlined, enhance coordination with the different spheres of government to make sure that that doesn't become the barrier to entry. I mean, the other key element is also around development. We have quite a significant portion of investments that are coming from the property development or real estate development sector. And we know even in that instance, you've got rezoning applications, you've got all kinds of other planning approvals that may be required. And often that's where the investments get stuck. That's where projects get stuck. And so that is a commitment that we have made to say, as the province, we've set up and institutionalized a one-stop shop kind of facility that enables those who are part of this process, but also those who will make further investment commitments, beyond today, to actually be able to have a one-stop shop where they can have many of those regulatory issues unblocked and dealt with and expedited. And we believe that through doing that, at least we're playing our part. We can then call on the private sector and others to do their part.
But how deep is the support? I've seen people almost thinking a one-stop shop is a place that you can really just sign and get your CIP documents and a visa.
Yeah,
and I ask myself, there's a phrase of bankable projects.
Sure.
Can I really, really walk into the one-stop shop and then get out of that as an entrepreneur, knowing that I have a bankable project that your likes of GGDA have given me enough business intelligence so that I can go to Standard Bank?
Yeah. So the one-stop shop you're referring to, the physical one-stop shop, is indeed there to do that.
Okay.
But that is not the entirety of the picture.
Okay.
I think the point I'm trying to drive across is to say, even following an event like this, where we have received pledges and we know that there's certain projects that are teed up that are supposed to contribute to the commitments we've made through GGDA and through the Investment Facilitation Office. We are then able to identify where those blockages may be and to specifically target those blockages. You're correct in saying there is indeed another institution that sits under our department called the One Stop Shop. And like you say, I mean, anyone can really walk in and whether it's through CIPC registration or any kind of just having questions that they want to know, they can ask those questions. But what I'm really saying is that as we leave today, we're not trying to leave here and have projects get blocked in approval or planning approval stage. We have highlighted and identified those projects, and we've ensured that we've put a team together that is able to identify where those regulatory blockages may come from. We're able to access, whether it's through local municipality, or through national government where there may be blockages, and we can then assist in expediting that. And we've already had a bit of experience, fortunately, through last year's investment conference. 19 of the projects that were pledged from last year's commitment are already in implementation stage. So, we build also as we go along, and we get better and more streamlined with our process.
Yes, sometimes it's not really regulations that makes projects not bankable, but it's also entrepreneurs who sometimes I feel don't understand the system.
True. Yeah.
And
the information gap.
The information gap is
Yeah.
quite huge. I mean, you're starting a whole smart city, and I'm asking myself, who are going to be the front runners in getting it going? So I would really, I think the African Development Bank has a great instrument in ensuring that whether it's legal, whether it's finance, that type of deep support. I think I don't know if you have something like that in your mind coming forward.
I think 100%. The information gap is a key hindrance to many entrepreneurs being able to participate in a lot of these opportunities, whether it's the ones that we are presenting today or just in general. So that is something, again, I think we have to be able to look at ourselves and be honest about the fact that we probably haven't done enough to make that information accessible freely. More must be done. We are in the information age. Young people are on TikTok every day, and I don't think necessarily that we're doing enough to reach them in the spaces where they are. So that has to be something that we enhance and make sure that we work with the media, with other sectors to reach people where they are and make sure the information gets there.
I saw you had a honorary guest from China. Are you
Yes.
also reaching out to BRICS countries to bring those investments through? Take us through about how you're communicating that.
Absolutely. We have, of course, a lot of relationships and investments coming through from different BRICS nations. We have a number of investments coming through from companies that are from India, whether it's car companies, Mahindra is here today. There's car companies from China as well. Chery has made quite significant investments in the province through the automotive sector plans. And we also have a number, we've been, actually China, let me say, there's a lot of conversations happening across the province in a number of different industries. So really, and it doesn't stop there, from my other portfolio, the other hat I wear, we also are not just talking investments. There's also learning and people-to-people exchanges that we are making. We're working very closely with the Brazilian government as well. They've had, a lot of successes in curing hunger and food insecurity, and we learn from some of the journey that they've walked from a policy perspective. And so I think there's again a lot to be gained from the BRICS countries and from the BRICS platform, deepening cross international investment both ways, but also deepening people-to-people exchanges, information sharing. We don't have to reinvent the wheel. If others have done it and they've succeeded, we can learn from that.
And the geopolitics, as you say, that yes, the whole strait being closed and in the agricultural space, what is going to happen when people are not starting to get their fertilizers now to put on the ground? Or how are you going to look into that situation? Because that's a delayed risk happening already.
Sure. Look, I think we are certainly living through interesting times. There is a reshaping, a reconfiguration, let me say, of the geopolitical balance of power. And I think for us, we have to really reflect as a country in terms of how we also strengthen our regional relationships. Minister of Trade and Industry was here today. He spoke at length, actually, about the African Continental Free Trade Agreement and how we can deepen our regional impact and really attract a lot more investment from our regional partners and other countries regionally. But equally, it speaks to our BRICS partners and other countries in the global south and say we really cannot afford to be spectators in the global economy. we are collectively where the bulk of the population of the world is and where the world is going, you know, even in terms of the demographic that we are seeing in Africa and in other parts of the world. We have to take a lead, and that will only come from, again, deepening trade with each other, technology sharing, and otherwise. I mean, you spoke about the fertilizer issue. Nothing stops us from, you know, um, uh, taking on some of that production and actually becoming a lot more independent in terms of production of certain key materials that we need for our economy. So that work, I mean, I think in every crisis, there's an opportunity. And we have to see the opportunity that also emerges out of the reshaping of the global economy.
So if we're to follow you for the next 7 months, what do you think we're going to see at the end of it?
Well, firstly, good luck trying to keep up.
Okay.
Okay, so it's going to be a very busy next 7 months. There really has to be a core focus on, you know, seeing through and implementing a lot of the pledges that would have come from today's event and others that also came from the previous year's investment conference. Because at the end of the day, we can talk about the macro issues. I think the macro issues are important. We must set the visions and the strategies. But if you've got to get on the ground, you've got to understand how, you know, I want to see factories being built. I want to understand how we move our home microprocessors from, you know, mixing tubs of hair products at home into industrial hubs. We have to activate our special economic zones. In fact, next week, we will be working on the newest economic zone, which is the Vaal Special Economic Zone.
Okay.
So it's really also about implementing and seeing some of those economic zones become, you know, what we had really envisioned them to be. And most importantly, it's also about driving employment. You know, looking at those sectors that can really become a catalyst for labor retention and absorption. And my first love, of course, as an entrepreneur myself, is entrepreneurship, innovation, and small businesses. I think we would have failed the economy of Gauteng and the people of Gauteng if we are not able to, you know, create a much more meaningful offering for small businesses in this province. And I mean that from finance to knowledge sharing to information, human capital, and so on and so forth. So I know I've said a mouthful, but I did warn you, it will be a busy 7 months.
Sure. No, we look forward to it. And I thank you for joining us on BRICS Africa channel.
Thank
we'll
you.
definitely
Thank
come
you.
and visit you in the Vaal and see you in action.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.